Hello and welcome to your Believing Heart podcast for March 1st, 2023. This week in video games, we've got news to talk about. We've got the new Mario movie news, we've got Sony's State of Play news, and it was kind of boring. Angry Birds is apparently going away, and of course more industry layoffs. Afterwards, I'll continue discussing The Last of Us, a show that I find incredibly interesting, if not necessarily very good. I'm your host, Mario 8th. You can find me across the internet all at Mario 8th. Links to all my socials as well as every article I'll be discussing, as always, will be in the show notes. So if you, like me, have the pervasive need to hear everything about this dumb Mario movie, then Nintendo's got us covered. They'll be having another Nintendo Direct on March 9th to show off the final trailer. This is airing just about a month before the film itself is releasing, which now has an earlier date as well. The movie was pushed up 2 days, now it'll be releasing on April 5th instead of April 7th. And all I really know is I'll be getting the earliest showing that I can, hopefully somewhere on April 4th, because that's just the type of person that I am. In some exciting news, the long-expected Elden Ring DLC has just been announced. Titled Shadow of the Erd Tree, there's no expected release date, but development has started. I still really want to get around to Elden Ring. Like, really want to? Maybe I'll find a way in when the DLC releases. I made a big mistake on Thanksgiving, specifically on Thanksgiving. Elden Ring was $35, and I thought I could buy it now, but I don't know when I would play it, and by the time I want to play it, it'll probably have gone on sale again. Well, I was wrong. I should have bought it then, because when Game of the Year talks started at the end of December, beginning of January, and everyone was talking up Elden Ring, I really wanted to play it, and I still haven't, because now I need to wait until it's at least $35 for the PS5 version, specifically, want to get those shiny trophies. I guess I could play the PC version now that I've got a beefy PC, but I want those trophies, and I like playing games on my PS5 or on home consoles, because I don't work on my home consoles, I work on my computer, which is also how I play games on my computer, so I like to have a distinction when I can, which is why I like the consoles, or the Switch, or even things on my phone. Either way, I don't know why you would even need DLC for this game. Apparently it's already huge. It's getting DLC, and hopefully it'll go on sale around that same time, so I can finally play it. Speaking of announcements, Sony sure did announce stuff at their latest State of Play. The only real standout for me is that Chia will be releasing on March 21st. If you're not familiar, Chia is an indie game somewhat inspired by Zelda Breath of the Wild, but also kind of Mario Odyssey. It involves this little girl who's able to put her consciousness into various objects or animals and solve puzzles that way. And it's a big exploring. There is a hang glider for when I think the main character's name is Chia. For when the main character jumps off things, she can glide. It looks super cute. I'm really excited for it. March 21st. I just hope that it's short enough so that when I start playing Chia somewhere around the 21st, I have enough time to complete it by the time Zelda comes out a few weeks later. There was also Goodbye Volcano High, a scaly visual novel-y, rhythm-y looking game. If you don't know, scaly is the lizard, or I guess in this case, dinosaur, equivalent to furries. Now you know. I have to bear this burden, now you have to bear it too. Anyway, it's the game's releasing on June 15th. I've never been excited about this one, and the trailer still doesn't excite me in really any way, but some people seemed excited for it, so it's there. They also showed trailers for this interesting puzzle game called Humanity, where you control a white dog who needs to move hordes of humans around and sometimes have them fight other humans or run from things. There's like laser swords at one point. It looks fascinating. It's a weird one, but it looks interesting. There's a trailer for that. There's also the new Destiny expansion had a trailer shown, a new Naruto game collection was shown, Baldur's Gate 3 was shown, a multiplayer fantasy game called Wayfinder. The 3 new Street Fighter 6 characters were revealed. Well, they're not new characters. Zangief is returning. Lily is a new character. She looks interesting. And the internet's new/returning obsession is Cammy, who had a very, let's say, evocative trailer. Plus, a pretty detailed Resident Evil 4 remake was shown. There was a pretty detailed trailer for Resident Evil 4's remake. And then lastly, they showed 15 minutes of a pretty boring-looking Suicide Squad game. I wasn't interested at all. Some of the people on Kind of Funny seemed interested, but I'm not sold. I'm not sold at all. And all in all, I really, truly should not have watched this showcase, but I can't help myself. I just have to watch them. I don't know why. I guess I like it, even though I don't. Either way, I'm excited for Chia. Up next, I have immense respect for the developers of IO Interactive and what they've done with the latest Hitman trilogy. I haven't actually played any of them, but they seem like games I would be able to spend months in. So when they announced their next game would be an online fantasy RPG, I wish them all the best luck. I'm a bit worried about it being an online RPG. Feels like it might delve into more live servicey elements that I'm not the biggest fan of, but it does seem like, from what the quotes that the team put out, it is something that they really want to do. Plus, even if this one doesn't work out so well, I'm sure the James Bond game they're also working on will be much more akin to Hitman, and hopefully will sell gangbusters. Either way, I really like this team. The Hitman series, especially this latest trilogy. I forget what the new title of it is called, but it just seems so, like truly great games, and I'm really excited to see this studio grow. In interesting video game company news, the company that worked on Forspoken and Final Fantasy XV, Luminous Productions, is merging with Square Enix proper, which I guess Square really liked what they were doing. I mean, 15 went through a lot of development hell and wasn't all that well praised, especially at launch. And Forspoken seems to be completely critically panned, but hey, what do I know? Maybe Square thinks bringing them in, they'd be able to utilize their technical know-how better if they're under direct management. I mean, it's all speculation on my part. It's just interesting that after 2 launches that didn't go so great, Square still decided to bring them in. In capitalism news, my god. So, Angry Birds. Remember Angry Birds? It was a huge mobile hit a few years back. Like one of the classics. Well, Rovio will be delisting the title soon. See, Rovio has a bunch of other Angry Birds titles that have significantly more microtransactions within. Angry Birds is a single purchase, and it seems like many people were content with just buying Angry Birds and not spending any more money. Which I guess wasn't good enough for the money crunchers. So despite having just brought the OG Angry Birds back to mobile devices, Rovio is removing it so that players have no choice but to enter microtransaction hell. I mean, I'm not even an Angry Birds fan, I've never played it, but I really dislike this style of monetization. It's really emblematic of all the monetary problems with games right now, especially so in the mobile market. So if you like Angry Birds, hurry up and buy it soon because you won't be able to. And in heartbreaking more layoff news, EA has just laid off all of their QA workers in its Baton Rouge office in LA. What amounts to roughly 100 employees lost their livelihoods in a surprise Zoom call. It's also being reported that after laying off 11,000 workers from a few months ago, Meta, the Facebook people, are planning on cutting even more jobs throughout this year. My heart goes out to all those who are affected, and hopefully everyone will be able to land on their feet. And that wraps it up for news this week. I haven't been doing all that much in terms of video games. I don't know if I talked about it last week, but I finished beating Hi-Fi Rush. Pretty good, really darn good game. Love that game a lot. And I didn't play anything else after that. I played a little bit of Splatoon, but I didn't feel the urge to start anything. If I had Elden Ring, maybe I would have started that, but I don't have Elden Ring right now. So I've just kind of, well, really what I started doing was reading a book. I don't think I'll discuss too much about it, but I'm enjoying the book. It's a sequel. I think I liked this, despite not remembering much of the sequel. I think I remember liking the previous book more, despite not remembering much of the first. I remember liking it more than what the sequel is turning out to be. I think I'm about 3/4 of the way through. I am enjoying it. It's keeping me through, but there are some choices that I just don't like that much. But I mean, I'm enjoying it enough. And I'm also still watching The Last of Us. I'm not loving The Last of Us, in the sense that I don't like The Last of Us's game all that much. I think the story is weak. And in that same vein, The Last of Us show's story is still pretty weak. And so that anytime it's trying to emulate the game is when it's at its weakest. Not this latest episode, but the episode before. They repeated a scene that is, in my opinion, infamous. It's one of the worst scenes in the game. And they decided to keep that scene in pretty much carbon copy. It has really great actors. I'm loving Pedro Pascal and the person who plays Ellie. Let me Google their name real quick. Bella Ramsey. They're doing a great job, and Pedro's doing a great job. But the scene just felt completely out of context. They changed all the context around this scene. It's a very famous scene. But they changed all the context around it, which made the scene feel out of place. And the stuff that was around it felt so much better than those parts of the game that were in the game. Now, one of the big problems is, of course, the game is allowed to be... The show is allowed to be the best parts of The Last of Us, which is actors acting against each other. The game is broken up by being a game, and in my opinion, not an especially great one, and it honestly ruins the pacing quite a bit. The pacing is better in the show, but they're still trying to be too faithful to the game. Especially so in these latter few episodes. I still think episode 3 is going to wind up being the best episode of this show because it deviated so much from the game. And then everything else is just straying closer and closer and closer, and it's becoming fascinating to me to see how they're doing it, but less interesting as a cohesive show. I saw one person on Twitter, and I think they wrote an article saying The Last of Us needed to be longer. And I looked at it and thought, yeah, it really did need to be longer. Not because there was too much stuff from the game, but because they could have added more that wasn't in the game. If they just added more context to everything, added more interactions between Pedro and Bella, is that what their name is? Yeah, Pedro and Bella, if they were able to interact with each other more, if more of the backgrounds for the other side characters were developed a little bit more, I feel like this show actually could have been something special. But instead it is still The Last of Us. I just don't like The Last of Us. I realize the irony in me talking about how it could have been better while not liking the source material all that much, but I'm fascinated by the show. I'm definitely going to keep watching it, and I'll have more updates eventually. Anyway, that is going to be it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, if you'd like to follow me, I'm at MarioWaith everywhere, or if you'd like to see any of the links I discussed in this episode, every link that you could possibly imagine is going to be in the show notes. If you would like to, maybe leave a rating somewhere. I hear iTunes ratings are pretty good for the algorithm. Or if you want to leave a thumbs up, maybe a comment on the YouTube version, or just yell at me on Twitter or Tumblr or co-host. All of those things are applicable. And thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.